Today I wanted to take the opportunity to do something a little different. And that something that's a little different is me talking about Pokemon, which I have never done on this channel in the 6 years I have ran this channel. Partly because Nintendo used to be super strict about talking about their games and everything would get copyright claimed, and that is no longer the case, but partly just because, I guess. So let's talk about the recently revealed Pokemon Sword and Shield. It just was announced today during a Nintendo Direct, and it looks absolutely beautiful, and like a lot of Nintendo games for me personally, magical. I don't really get to talk Nintendo on this channel much, but if you guys don't know, I grew up with Nintendo. My first video game experiences were on the NES with games like Metroid and obviously Mario, Battletoads, Pokemon eventually on the Game Boy Color, and obviously all of the other Nintendo experiences I would have throughout the years and generations across platforms like the N64, the GameCube, the Wii, and now the Switch. As much time as I spent playing first-person shooters on my Xbox with games like Halo and eventually Counter-Strike on PC, I was always a big old Nintendo fanboy. I mean, I skipped school to play new Zelda releases. Like, Nintendo is a bit of my heart and soul as someone who loves video games, and a lot of that is thanks to my mom, who got me into video games in the first place and who loves them, loved and continues to love them just as much as I do. So Pokemon for me is a part of my childhood, but so is Nintendo, and I think they still manage to touch on that magical side of video games, particularly because they're never super concerned with like what is a certain group of people interested in or playing. They know what people are interested in because they see the success of their games, and they just continue to use that to do whatever the hell they want to do. And sometimes that result is a lot of weird, janky things, but often those weird, janky things are beautiful and magical, and I wouldn't really have Nintendo any other way, especially now that they've done away with that really archaic and very strict set of creator guidelines. I can actually just talk about their games, and that feels like such a big sigh of relief because I love a lot of the things they do, and I love a lot of the people that have worked for and with their company over the years. So let's talk more about Sword and Shield itself. Again, it's very much a mainline Pokemon game. They're not suddenly making Pokemon Breath of the Wild edition, which is what I think a lot of people wanted, but I think you have to realize that Game Freak totally gets what a successful Pokemon title is. Especially when we talk the main releases, the core releases, and they're not going to just suddenly tip the formula upside down. They're going to keep that core concept of how we've experienced Pokemon for the last decade plus now, and then they're going to build around it with hopefully new features, new mechanics, and obviously a bunch of new Pokemon, including the 3 new starter Pokemon we're going to get with Sword and Shield. I'm totally okay with that, because I think, much like a lot of other Nintendo experiences, whether it's first party or, you know, a studio like Game Freak who's been working with them forever, they totally get how to preserve the best bits of their game generation after generation, decade after decade, which is why the classic formula of Mario still works. You know, Super Mario Odyssey was this massive injection of nostalgia and new gameplay experiences that had me absolutely giddy. Nintendo just does that, and they do that so well. I mean, can you think of a game that released over 10 years ago that can hold on, that has held on to its core gameplay concepts as well as Nintendo games have? There's very few out there. It's an incredible thing, and so I understand why they don't abandon it. I am looking forward to, again, a lot of the other new things we might get around those core ideologies in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I absolutely love the setting. Galar region looks incredible. It's very diverse. We've got this sort of summer, maybe even like kind of autumnal rural setting with small cities and towns. We also see some wide open plains, and then there's those snow-covered mountains. And when we look at our characters, and they're decked out in like sweaters and stuff, man, oh, the nostalgia factor just goes through the roof for me. Like, I can't wait to just head on out on another Pokemon journey. And we've got those 3 new starter Pokemon. So we're looking at Grookey, which is a chimp grass-type Pokemon, Scorbunny, rabbit fire-type Pokemon, and Sobble, who is a lizard water-type. I would really love to know which one you guys have got your eye on, because this is like me tapping into my youth again, being like, which Pokemon are you going to pick? I haven't been able to do this in forever with a group of people, and that really makes me giddy. I'm Scorbunny all the way. I was always a Charizard guy, and I think I'm feeling it once again with Scorbunny. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But let's talk a little bit more about Pokemon, and I guess you could say sort of just games as a whole, right? Because in the generation that I grew up in, there was a huge portion of my lifetime where gatekeeping in a very different way, was a huge part of the gaming community. The idea that everyone was always trying to tell you what you should and can't and, you know, should play based on your age bracket and based on the aesthetics and the stylings of many of the games that were currently on the market. I mean, there were a million people who like would tell you basically you should never play World of Warcraft because it's just for losers and nerds. And Pokemon, as I got older, became one of those games that fell into the realm of it's for children, which is a load of bullshit. I mean, we all know that now. Well, most of us know that now. And there are still people who do try and gatekeep around games being colorful or, you know, poppy or bright or enthusiastic. I mean, look at a game like Overwatch and Apex Legends. I've seen people constantly bash those games because they use more than 3 colors in their color palette, and that continues to blow my mind. Because imagine if we had never gotten out of the Gears of War 1, Uncharted 1 era where everything was just brown and gray and purple and shades of dark purple and maybe shades of dark blue. Everything was just blah, right? You know, we moved on from that. And no thanks given to the people who are like, everything's going to be super serious and gritty and dark, man, otherwise it's for children. There have actually been entire franchises and new IPs, specifically one that I could talk about, but that's a different video, that have been ruined by focus testing, where they asked a bunch of edgy 15-year-olds if this game, you know, appealed to them, and they said it was too colorful. It's something their little brother would play, right? So that's the kind of gatekeeping that I think my generation sort of pushed our way through. And we're very much past that, you know, or we're getting past that. We're getting to the point where it's just like, dude, play whatever you want to play, man. Is this game physically or, you know, actually harming a group of individuals? Then just, if you like Pokemon, play Pokemon, man. If you like RuneScape, play RuneScape. Who gives a shit what other people think? Life should be about enjoying the things you enjoy and loving the things you love. And so, yeah, I feel like we're way past that now. We've gone away from that, right? I mean, I remember working at GameStop and having coworkers bash people who came in and bought the latest Pokemon games because they weren't 5 years old. And I was always like, why do you care? Why do you care what they play? I mean, you eat the same sandwich every day for lunch. I don't give you shit about it. Who cares that they play Pokemon, right? So it's interesting to see that shift as, you know, as I grew up playing games, looking back at sitting around with my friends and trading Pokemon in the Game Boy Color to where I am now. And on a personal level for me, I never stopped enjoying Pokemon. It was just like I stopped finding time for it. And that's the case of just doing YouTube, where it's like if I'm not going to cover it, I probably don't have time for it. But the thing that I love is that I'm kind of in that next step in my life, right? Like Michelle and I, you know, engaged in this long-standing relationship we've been in. We love spending time with each other. And when we can find games that we both enjoy, like Pikmin and Pokemon and Animal Crossing, you know, we lose our shit over it. So this is the type of game where I'm like this close to making sure I get a second Switch before it releases this year, just so Michelle and I can play Pokemon together. Because it's, you know, it's another opportunity to experience a franchise that I adore alongside of a new person. You know, it was back in the day sitting around playing with my friends and trading Pokemon, and now I can sit around and enjoy Pokemon with Michelle. And that just sounds like a wonderful, beautiful thing. So, yeah, there you have it, guys. Just Pokemon. Nintendo. You're never too old, plain and simple, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say about Sword and Shield, whether you're excited for it, and of course, which one of the starter Pokemon has totally got your attention. Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you for joining me for something very different today. I hope to talk a lot more about Nintendo in the future now that this sort of creator lockdown has been lifted. There's so many of their games that I absolutely adore that I would love to spend time talking about. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.